trying to rain on the thunder. Tell the storm I'm new. I'm a walk, I'm a march on the regular. Painting white flags blue. Lord, forgive me, I've been running blind in truth. I'm a rain on this bitter love. Tell the sweet I'm new. Ooh, I'm telling these tears go and fall away, fall away. Oh, may the last one burn into flames. Freedom, freedom, I can't move. Freedom, cut me loose. Yeah. Freedom, freedom, where are you? 'Cause I need freedom too. I break chains up on myself. Won't let my freedom rot in hell. Hey, I'ma keep running 'cause the winner don't quit on themselves. March on the regular, paint white flags blue. Love, forgive me, I've been running blind in truth. I'm a rain on this bitter love. Tell the sweet I'm new. I'm telling these tears gonna fall away, fall away. Oh, may the last one burn into flames. Freedom, freedom, I can't move. Freedom, cut me loose. Yeah. Freedom, freedom, where are you? 'Cause we need freedom too. I break chains upon myself. Let my freedom rot in hell. Hey, I'ma keep running 'cause the winner don't quit on themselves.
Cillian Murphy is the mastermind behind Thomas Shelby's iconic walk. At one point, the Irish actor even caught himself walking like Thomas Shelby at home, and his wife had to keep reminding him to walk normally.
I saw that you were DJing at a festival over
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, is that something that you still really love exploring? Something you're passionate about?
I've done that a few times. I love it. You know, anything to do with music in any tangential way, I'll get involved.
there.
It's my first love. So when you can play music and people start dancing, it's just when you feel that energy in a room, it's a great buzz.
This is Cillian. Kamu yang telling you to walk.
You right back at
you.
this. Today we're going to be looking at some blockbusters, some incredible films. It's going to be a bumpy ride. We will look at some exciting films featuring renowned Oscar and Golden Globe winning talents, the likes of Cillian Murphy, Matthew McConaughey, and America Ferrera will be the center of our main focus. Cillian Murphy is an Irish actor who rose to acclaim after his haunting performance as a zombie that doesn't know it's a zombie in the groundbreaking film 28 Days Later. At the time, Murphy's focus was to break out of Broadway and make it on the big stage, the film stage, and so he gave the performance of his life, and it was exactly what the audience craved. Before his major breakthrough, Cillian was the main man on stage, portraying enigmatic villains who were almost always insane. He had a thing for being a devilishly devious man, and so as a character, you really couldn't trust him. In 28 Days Later, Murphy played Jim, a zombie who hasn't fully turned. He wakes up to a horrifying grim reality about everything. He's in a dissolute hospital. Everyone is dead except him. Oh no. Although that is exactly what he wanted. Secretly, Jim is a zombie himself that is excited that the other humans have perished, making way for him in the coming of the zombie apocalypse. The strain that caused the zombies to turn was a virus injected into human beings, thought at first to cure disease, but later it transforms them into violent chimpanzees, much like the happening in the Toxic Avenger. Some zombies have fully turned and appear as monkeys with superhuman strength. The major plot twist is that 28 Days Later is a chapter that happens right before the events in the film Planet of the Apes. What this means is demons controlling chimps planned the whole thing. The plan was to turn human beings into ignorant chimps and monkeys that look like them, then turn themselves into human beings who would then control their biggest enemies. It's like the Animal Farm story. A shocking turn of events happens when the demons and aliens that help the chimps control everything end up turning on them. There's a problem. There is a problem with the strain, and the virus doesn't really change every single human being into apes like they were supposed to. Instead, we have half-breeds, half human, half animal with a taste for blood and bones. A race now erupts between different species of apes as they struggle to control what they have ultimately done. Jim, played by Cillian Murphy, is one of the apes who had transformed into a human being, almost successfully. But there is a catch. He doesn't realize that he is a Frankenstein monster who is also half zombie. Oh no. When Jim meets his girlfriend, she helps him assume the throne as Caesar, the king of the apes. Things, however, keep taking a turn for the worse as other shape-shifting apes who are human beings and zombies at the same time also want to be king. An epic meeting at the soldiers' barracks results in Caesar ambushing his fellow army members. They wanted to betray him but ended up dying as a result of their incompetence. Okay. Ultimately, Caesar wins and is able to assume the throne. But not for long, as he will soon succumb to the strain and end up dying. Oh no. Leading to the events of other movies. If you pay close attention to the bone structure of the actor Cillian Murphy in the film, he does look like an ape. He said this was a distinction to help the audience see the true meaning of the movie. 28 Days Later was a massive blockbuster that ushered in a new era for zombie films. 28 years later was made as a sequel to 28 Days Later. In it, Cillian Murphy does appear as a zombie. It's just like a homage. What I believe that was maybe just like a mirage or something because of how legendary Caesar was.
And you're gonna be nice.
After this groundbreaking film, things turned to being subtle for a quiet actor once again. He loves playing demonic roles. It wasn't until Christopher Nolan would cast him in the film Batman did everything change. Cillian Murphy almost credits Batman solely as the reason why he eventually went on to win an Oscar for playing Robert J. Oppenheimer. What is interesting about Cillian Murphy in the Batman series is that in each movie his character changes. In Batman Begins, he plays a shape-shifting villain called Scarecrow. Much like his name's meaning, Scarecrow has the ability to transform into a monster that really isn't there. In a scheme to keep criminals out of prison, Scarecrow would pretend to be their lawyer. I'm a lawyer. I'm gonna plead insanity. Okay, he's insane. Scare them. He would use scare tactics to scare them almost half to death with delusions of grandeur. When the judge sees the criminals react to monsters that aren't there, he would proceed to release them. Well, that's because Scarecrow also uses a form of mind control, controlling the judges. In the beginning, Scarecrow is all-powerful and able to undermine all forms of law enforcement. This is until he meets Batman, a man who also uses scare tactics as a phantom. Truth is, Batman is half human and half alien, with the ability to transform into an invisible bat. That's why when you're talking to him, it just disappears. You can't see him anymore. That, my friends, is how Batman is able to always escape danger. In fact, it's his whole reasoning for pretending to be a ninja warrior. I'm Batman. With this information, it is also believed that in The Dark Knight Rises, when Bane beats up Batman, the Bat was actually pretending. He wanted to trick Bane, I'm Batman, into showing him all his plans. Show me your plans, I'm Batman. That is why when Batman escapes from prison and is faced with Bane again, he easily defeats him. He uses the hubris of his enemy to trick them and then find out the plans. Anyway, back to Batman Begins. In this film, which marked the first time Scarecrow and Batman would be meeting, a lot happens. In one sequence, Batman tries to apprehend Scarecrow for his evil actions, but then Scarecrow eludes Batman and takes him on an acid trip of his life. Batman is soon teleported to a different dimension where he sees only demons and monsters. Oh, what is this? It's all but an illusion created to scare him into killing ordinary civilians. Oh my god. Whilst Batman is trapped in this dimension, Scarecrow proceeds to shapeshift into the form of Batman, then begins to ruin his name as a hero and saint, much like Venom does to Spider-Man. Batman at this point struggles to get a nerve, but when he does, he breaks out of the spell and manages to kill Scarecrow. Batman. And then something happens that we can't believe, which is Batman's evil boss Ra's al Ghul, who was supposed to have died after Batman ambushed him, returns from the dead to try to bomb Gotham and kill everyone in it. Well, it wasn't really Ra's al Ghul, it was a demon form of him that had incorporated with the Scarecrow. What this plot twist could mean is that Scarecrow only exists not as a human but as a demon that can shapeshift and pretend to be different men, like Ra's al Ghul or the Joker, Bane. When Batman kills Scarecrow, he actually only manages to punch him. But can you really punch a phantom? Scarecrow eludes him again, only to return as Ra's al Ghul. This leads to an epic battle between Batman and his former boss, one which ends when Ra's al Ghul is crushed in a train tunnel. But both Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow return again and again in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. In The Dark Knight, Cillian Murphy also returns, playing a shape-shifting villain pretending to be Batman. Despite repeatedly trying to kill him, Murphy's phantom just won't die. This time he takes possession of the Joker with a plot to take over Gotham. Well, another plot twist is that the Joker, according to the events in Joker Folie 2, dies in prison before the events of The Dark Knight. What happens later is that the Joker's ghost incorporates with Scarecrow and now becomes a new villain who is reformed to fight Batman in The Dark Knight. It's very confusing, but this is comic book stuff. In The Dark Knight Rises, Scarecrow helps Bane avenge Ra's al Ghul's name. Again, Cillian Murphy returns as a phantom, pretending to pass judgment on crooked cops who had turned on Bane in an attempt to help Batman. This strange happening could mean Scarecrow is an ever-present evil spirit that lingers around Batman's terrain, thanks to the people who are practicing all forms of witchcraft in Gotham. Much like Aku in Samurai Jack, and in fact the character called him in the Pop-Up Girls, whom we all assume is the devil. Well, him is not the devil but a demon that assumes different roles when he grabs hold of an important person and then possesses them. I would like to speak to the Pop-Up Girls. In 2025, Jordan Peele and Marlon Wayans produced a live-action version of him called Him, and this is based on the character from the Pop-Up Girls. But that's a story for another day, okay? I haven't yet watched the film. When I do, I'll have a lot to reveal.
Closing in. Blah, blah, blah. Not a couple of days of this food. That'll be true. What do you want? I want to know.
So aside from playing spooky ghostly characters and monsters that continuously haunt Batman, Cillian also has been part of a film that changed everything for everyone and for himself as well.
This is a national emergency.
Detonator charged.
In Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy plays Robert J. Oppenheimer, a controversial figure who built the atomic bomb that allegedly ended the World War and saved Japan from being overrun by mass terrorism. Oppenheimer is one of the greatest films ever made and today stands as Christopher Nolan's magnum opus. Sure, Memento was genius and even The Dark Knight is beyond amazing, but Oppenheimer is simply more important. It's one of the most complex films I've ever watched, and thanks to it I learned many lessons. Much to the disbelief of many detractors, this film does not support America in the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Rather, it shows that whilst the bombing of those two places was done terribly, it was also deemed necessary in stopping Hitler, who had many insurgents taking people hostage in Japan. The film, though overlong, helps us see the persecution that Robert J. Oppenheimer endured not only from evil men but from fellow scientists who often tried to assassinate him. In the film, Robert deliberately paints himself as a bad man with hopes of revealing many plans of espionage that were forced against him. He is literally on trial throughout his own film. The political undertone is far-reaching and has proved to be crucial in helping many world leaders navigate the harsh punishment for being presidente or being a leader. For the film, Cillian Murphy won his most prized possession, an Academy Award for Best Actor. The film also won Best Picture and Best Director for Christopher Nolan, and now Christopher Nolan is scared to make another film because he doesn't want to ruin his perfect reputation. I'm not kidding, but Odyssey is coming out soon probably, and this would also explain James Cameron why he only releases movies every 2-3 years, because he doesn't want to mess up his reputation.
World will remember this
In 2023, acclaimed young writer Max Porter wrote a book about the evil and torture endured by black juvenile delinquents. The book was called Shy, and it did not shy away from explaining the controversial treatment of black juvenile delinquents. In 2025, the novel was adapted into a script. The result was a breathtaking, absolute masterpiece of a film. Starring Cillian Murphy as the head teacher of juvenile delinquents and acclaimed British rapper Lil Sims as a terrorist teacher looking to ruin the lives of the innocent black juveniles delinquents by bringing up fake rape accusations. The film is called Steve and was produced by Netflix. But last night I watched it and I found it absolutely shocking, horrifying, funny and really honest. One thing about British dramas is that they are piercingly raw and honest in ways you can't believe. As a youth I watched Skins and I found it absolutely amazing, though others found it repulsive and disgusting. I found its direction very exciting. Steve acts as a strange reimagination of other British dramas and comedies like Skins and The In-Betweeners. Unlike its predecessors, it's much more serious and grim in appearance. The film is set in a juvenile detention center for delinquents. It shows the life of a boy called Shy, a black man who has faced mass racial segregation and abuse from his teachers. Whenever Shy tries to act smart, it feels as if the system beats him up again and again. So to stop the abuse from happening, he also blends in, which means acting out like his friends. The film deliberately belittles the problems of the juvenile delinquents and instead places focus on the juveniles' abuses. The teachers who have been portraying borderline racist treatment towards the black inmates of the institution. Steve is the center of focus. He's the head teacher who is facing the possibility of jail time after it was revealed that he repeatedly set Shy up to be beaten and humiliated by fellow white inmates. Steve is also being accused of setting up another black man for raping one of the teachers. The plot has since fallen apart as reporters and journalists have slowly uncovered the truth and mass cover-ups. Steve is now on the verge of shutting down the whole institution, making way for further criminal investigations. Towards the end, we see the teachers continuously break down, showing the undertone of their collective guilty conscience. The soundtrack for the film is up-tempo techno, a symbol of confusion alluding to the events of the film. Nothing is exactly as it seems, as those who pretend to be innocent are actually the masterminding villains. Steve is not for everyone, but it's certainly a conversation worth having.
So how you doing? I've been worried about you.
Finally, with a Rotten Tomatoes score of 87%, we have The Lost Bus. The Lost Bus is the action film event of the year, starring Academy Award winner Matthew McConaughey alongside a terrorist teacher pretending to be nice, played by Academy Award nominee and star of Ugly Betty, the one and only America Ferrera. The Lost Bus is a must-watch. It's directed by the one and only Paul Greengrass, a man who is now famous for making the Bourne Identity movie series. Greengrass is also famous for making the critically acclaimed film Captain Phillips, starring Tom Hanks. The Lost Bus is based on actual events which happened in 2018 when a wildfire erupted and caused damage to an entire neighborhood. The events were later blamed on the negligence of the fire department. Them, together with the electric power company, caused some form of sabotage that resulted in what has now been described as a mass act of terrorism. Man's laughter. Haha, sorry, we didn't mean to do that. A fire spread out, killing over 84 civilians in the county. Oh my god. In the movie, a secret agent working for the government returns home to take care of his parents. His dad dies just as he arrives, then he's forced to take care of his mom and disobedient son. Truth is, all this is a cover, son. Matthew is undercover, investigating the origin of many suspicious forest fires. Most of them, when they happen, seem like an accident, but there must be more happening than someone is not telling them. It turns out there is a mass corruption scheme involving Matthew's own boss and government officials in that county. They plot to burn the town down, then cash in on huge insurance claims protecting their burnt down business establishments. Well, why not just sell your business before starting a fire, man? Well, because the insurance claims had made over-evaluation of their dilapidated business establishment or property valuations. Truth is, the insurance company could pay off more than they are actually worth, encouraging the corrupt citizens to put in the devious work. Okay, don't try this at home, kid. Don't burn down your farm. You will get $50 for it and jail time, believe me. The result is devastating as the fire engulfs not just the business establishment but the many homes of the citizens. Oh my god, it's a fire! It doesn't stop. This form of mass terrorism was also used as a cover to try to overthrow the government. But it never works out, my friends. The government always has secret agents fighting fires every day, my friends. In the film, Matthew is posing as a bus driver for school children. When things go wrong, he's directed by his devious boss to save 23 children from the forest fires, then carefully take them to their homes. You gotta take them home. Everything becomes chaos as it is clear Matthew's boss keeps giving him misleading information. Okay, you gotta go south, then you gotta go west, then you gotta go south again. Come on. He's given wrong directions and must somehow save the children without proper help or navigation. America Ferrera plays the children's school teacher. She's patronizing, impatient, and condescending, leading to the escalation of the situation. Truth is, she was hired to frame Matthew for the whole fire thing. It's his fault. She continuously undermines his ability to solve the problem, leading to them fighting again and again. Let me drive this bus, okay? Okay, alright, I gotta drive the bus. Ultimately, Matthew manages to save all the children after guiding everyone out of a hellish portal. Using prayer, technology, and his own intuition, Matthew saves everyone from total destruction. It's a tale of resilience, fighting against the odds, and finally finding victory. The film is very difficult to stomach if you're not used to watching people engulfed in fires. You might want to skip this one. Oh no, it's beyond awesome and totally worth watching. I give it a perfect 10 out of 10. A great comeback from Matthew McConaughey, who has been missing in action for many years. Hey.
Not too late. I want my daddy.
He's doing everything he can to get to you.
We gotta get these kids out of here.
Tell them to save lives wherever they can. That's all we can do now.
I have 22 kids on that bus. I gotta get them to their parents.
Say that the hero will save us. We're not gonna stay away. Onto the wings of an eagle, watch as we both fly away.
Cillian Murphy is the mastermind behind Thomas Shelby's iconic walk.
Movies.
At one point,
Thank you,
the Irish
Thomas
actor
Shelby.
even caught himself
Thank you,
walking
Matthew
like Thomas
McConaughey.
Shelby at home, and his wife had to keep reminding him to walk normally.